Hey guys, Jeffrey from Headstrong Training Systems here. Today we're going to be looking at the bench press, and in particular we're going to look at how to increase your stability on the bench press. Now what I mean by stability is how do we set ourselves, how do we manipulate our bodies, and what cues we can action to increase our tightness, to increase our overall stability and balance on the bench press. Because setting up that strong foundation will essentially help you in your other areas such as your pressing, such as eccentric. It will give you control and it will give you tightness in those areas. So that's why we need to set up our foundation in the bench press through our tightness. With a lot of your lifts, your stability and your tightness is everything. So we're going to be looking at three key things or cues that we can action to support your stability in the bench press. First of all, we're going to be looking at using leg drive, applying foot pressure into the ground to create a rigid upper body. We're also going to then look at bracing, how we can action bracing and contracting our obliques and abdominals to create our base. And thirdly, we're going to look at a cue that I haven't talked about before, which is essentially how to shoulder activation. What are the cue of basically squeezing the bar as hard as you can to cue activation of your arms, your shoulders, your torso. So those are the three areas we're going to be looking at today. So first of all, we're going to be looking at using leg drive to supplement your bench press. What I mean by that is, from my starting position as I'm setting up for the bench press, if I was to apply pressure through my feet into the ground, driving my feet down and pushing, really digging my big toe in, you'll see that I get pushed up the bench. Now, in addition to that, it's not just me getting pushed up the bench, but it's actually me setting my body into position. By applying foot pressure into the ground, it sets my scapula into position. You see my quads on fire right now. Constantly, I'm basically digging my feet into the bench, and it's actioning stability. My quads are very tight. They're turned on. I'm achieving active tightness there, and that also sets up the rest of my body. So simply by actioning leg drive, and foot pressure into the ground, I'm able to stay very tight in my bench press. And you see that throughout the lift, as I perform the eccentric and the concentric portion of the bench press, by constantly applying pressure into the ground through my legs, that's adding to my stability.
So
that's the first area or first cue that you can look at, which is actioning leg drive and applying leg pressure to achieve stability in the bench press. Now the second thing that I want to talk about, as I mentioned before, is your bracing. How do you correctly brace in the bench press to achieve stability, to achieve what we're trying to look for? Now, bracing the bench press is a bit different to squats and deadlifts, because in your squats and your deadlifts, you don't want to intake air into your chest. You always want to be intaking air into your stomach, because intaking air into your chest will make it hard for you to brace, will cause extension of that lumbar. But it's different with the bench press. On the bench press, we want to intake air into our chest, because when we intake air into our diaphragm, that expands the diaphragm. Now, as we expand the diaphragm, creates more room in the shoulder capsule. It will also raise up the chest so that there's a decreased range of motion from the bar to the chest, and it also helps to set our scapula into position, and that's the main thing. By setting the scapula into position through the intake of air into our diaphragm and raising the chest, that's what will create our tension and stability in our upper torso. So with your brace on the bench press, what I like to cue for my athletes is, you will brace at the unrack, so intake of air into the chest, unrack, release, now reset yourself. As right now, you see that little wiggle I do, that's essentially me driving my feet into the ground to apply leg drive and foot pressure. Now from my starting position, I'm going to do a sharp exhale. With that exhale, what it does is, it contracts my obliques. Contracting my obliques, my abdominals, creating stability and tension there. Then from there, holding that position, I'm going to intake as much air as I can into my upper chest, my diaphragm. And because with that brace, it raises my chest, sets my scaps, builds stability for me, builds tension. And as I perform the movement, I'm holding that brace. So that's the second area I should be looking at, which is performing a correct brace in the bench press to generate stability, to generate tightness and tension. Now, the third cue or the third area I want to talk about is something I haven't talked about before, is basically I want you to squeeze the bar as hard as you can with both of your hands. So wherever your hand is gripping the bar on both sides, your left and right sides, even as soon as you unrack, squeeze the bar as hard as you can, and then maintain that constant pressure. So even through the eccentric portion, which is the drop of the barbell, and even as you press through the whole lift, whenever the barbell isn't resting on a J hook, squeeze the bar as hard as you can. I can't emphasize that enough, because when you squeeze the bar, when you squeeze your wrist, you see that you see in particular my triceps, my deltoids, even my forearms, they become active, like that. Release, squeeze, release, squeeze. So you see what the cue of squeezing the bar as hard as you can does. Essentially, it's activating all my upper limbs, my torso. It's creating tightness there. It's creating tension, it's creating tightness there. And so by applying that cue, as soon as you unrack that barbell, it sets up your foundation. It essentially takes off a lot of stress than if your muscles weren't active. So to summarize what we've gone over today, we've gone over 3 easy methods to create stability and tightness in the bench press. Those include using leg drive, a correct brace into the upper diaphragm, the upper chest, and thirdly, finally, the most important one probably, be squeezing the bar as hard as you can with your both your wrists, with your hands, to create tightness. So that's all from me today, guys. Hope that was helpful for you, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.